my friends, it's your old pal Jordan the Lion, your old pal Jaw. How are you all doing today? I hope you said great. I'm doing great. We're actually going to be going off today, headed towards Miami for our next several vlogs. But as we're going through there, we're going to stop off in Bushnell and we're going to go to a place that we were just at like 2 weeks ago. We're going to the Florida National Cemetery, and there are so many amazing people that are buried there beyond just the combat veterans and all the veterans that have served, but people that had even kind of an extended, interesting life beyond that, that I wanted to go back and visit another one today. So we're going to head to Florida National Cemetery and pay our respects to Blackjack Mulligan. Daze with Jordan the Lion, it begins right now. All right, buddy, you want to go for a ride with me? Let's go see Blackjack. What do you say?
What I'm saying to you right now, you can bring 10,000 one-man gangs and the cruelest of all into Brute, Ron Bass, you double-crossing, sidewinding little rat.
Gonna have to stop here first to find out where he's located. So this one has that awesome gravesite locator ATM type machine where you can just punch in their name, and his name was not Blackjack Mulligan, his name was Robert Wyndham. Alright, so I got a map here. Looks like he's in 621, which is right up here. This place is huge. It's taking me a little time to find it. Alright, 621 is our section, and he is in spot 118. And I found out the last time I was here that on the opposite side of the headstone where their name is, they actually have the number. So from right over here at the marker where we started, where I showed you the number, he is right over, literally on the end. Robert DeRoy Wyndham, United States Marine Corps, Corporal. November 25th, 1941 he was born. He passed away April 7th. 2016, forever in our hearts. Also known as Blackjack Mulligan of the Blackjacks.
And Mulligan looking skyward, and here comes Sullivan, and Mulligan stops him. Mulligan rocks him.
Blackjack Mulligan was one of the most famous wrestlers of his day. He actually went into the Marine Corps. He was a big dude. He was 6'9", 340 pounds, and became a football player. He was a professional football player for a while, and then had a knee injury, and a fellow football player who was part football player, part-time football player, part-time wrestler, Wahoo McDaniel, Chief Wahoo McDaniel, helped him get into the wrestling business, and he soon became Blackjack Mulligan, making his debut in 1967. This guy wrestled everywhere. I mean, there's almost, other than Memphis, I think that's the only place he didn't wrestle in his time. He was in tag teams, he was a solo wrestler. Guy got an amazing pop. I've heard different stories about people. They said like when he would come out there with that black hair and the black mustache and the black vest, and he'd take the vest off, the crowd would go absolutely crazy. Now his family is also very famous because he is the grandfather of Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas, and he's the father of Barry Windham and Kendall Windham, and his son-in-law was or is Mike Rotunda, IRS, Erwin R. Shyster. Some of the things that people always talk about when they talk about Blackjack Mulligan is his absolute toughness. I can't even count how many people have talked about how tough this guy was. Like one of the legit all-time toughest wrestlers in real life. Said he liked to sucker punch people, not like just an out of the blue kind of thing. It was like he had a real short fuse, according to Ric Flair, and if he got mad, he would hit the person, including people like Harley Race, who was also known as being one of the toughest guys in the business. Ric Flair said he can remember one night they were all drinking in a hotel room, and Blackjack just hauled off and hit Harley and knocked him between two beds, and Harley couldn't get out of the beds. And then one of the most famous ones that they always talk about also is this absolute feud between Blackjack Mulligan and Andre the Giant. I mean, it wasn't a hatred feud. They actually liked each other. And in fact, when Andre came to the US for the very first time in 1976, he was paired up with Blackjack Mulligan. That's who he would face, and Blackjack was responsible for putting him over. But he said, you know, he said a lot of people thought Andre was a nice guy, but he said he had a mean streak, and he said especially with me. And he said there were some nights that we'd be in the ring and we would actually start duking it out. Times where I was supposed to give him a win, it would have to end in disqualification because we weren't getting along. And he said, I remember one night we were in Virginia Beach drinking in a hotel room. Some friends of mine owned a hotel. They owned a Howard Johnson. And he said, we're in there drinking, and all of a sudden Andre looks at me and he said, I think tonight we fight. He said, what? He said, we're gonna fight tonight. And he said they were sitting there drinking, and he said as Andre pours the next round of drinks for him, he said, I just start thinking, well, if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna hit this guy hard. And he said, and Andre goes, but I don't want you to put boots on me. He goes, what? He's like, we can fight with the fist, but I don't want you to put boots on me. I don't want you to kick me or anything. He goes, Andre, if I gotta put boots on you, I'm gonna if this is a fight. So he said they're actually sitting here making rules for the fight instead of just fighting. And he said, so when they went to take their drink, he hauled off and walloped Andre, and he said knocked him over the bed. He went after him. He said Andre picked him up, threw him across the room. They start fighting in the room. Next thing you know, they said they had a sliding glass door. They knocked the whole wall down. He said they knocked the whole sliding glass door. Everything falls down and shatters onto the ground. He said then we continue this onto the beach. He said and there was a rock wall in Virginia Beach. He said I pushed him over the wall and he took me with him. We fell 5 to 10 feet to the sand, knocked the wind out of us. And he said we're laying there, and he says, do you give up? He goes, Blackjack goes, no, I don't give up. He goes, do you give up? And Andre says, I don't give up. And Blackjack said, finally, I just said, okay, I give up. I don't have any more in me for this. And Andre goes, then I win. He goes, no, you didn't win. So they continued to have drunken fights like this all the time. There were many stories. I think it was Manny Fernandez told a story of how he had to pick up Andre in those early days and drive him around. And those two got into a fight in his apartment and ended up destroying the entire apartment. Because again, Blackjack got mad at something, or Andre said he was going to fight him. And next thing you know, they were duking it out in a hotel room. No fear between the two of them. There's also this story about a guy who was another wrestler, and you know, Blackjack had gotten his son Barry into wrestling. Barry was born in 1960, so Barry came into the business in the 70s, and then Kendall, his younger son, eventually came into it too. So I guess both sons were in the locker room one night, and this other wrestler said, hey Blackjack, give me some speed. And he's like, what? And he goes, oh, come on, everybody knows you're the biggest speedhead in the business. And Blackjack didn't even acknowledge him. This guy gets up and walks into like a shower room. Blackjack follows him in, locks the door, and the other wrestler said you could hear him just getting the crap beat out of him. Blackjack knocked this guy's daylights out. And even Ric Flair said, he goes, he was so tough. He said his fist and his slap was so tough. He said, I remember him knocking out Ole Anderson several times with a slap. He said just absolutely knocked him out. And in fact, Ric Flair said one time in the ring, during one of our feuds, I knocked his hat off and stomped on his hat, and he backhanded me and broke my eardrum. Wow. So he had a fantastic career. He fought just about anybody you can think of. Every star of the day, from Wahoo McDaniel in his early days to Big John Studd, I mean, Nikolai Volkov, just literally anybody, and would tag up with both of his sons. At one time, he would be tagging with Barry. He would tag with Kendall. He eventually, even when his daughter married Mike Rotunda, he was teaming up with Mike. Now, he had a lot of sadness and a lot of darkness to his life, too, because he did go to WWF. Like I said, he wrestled for everybody, and he was a superstar in his day from 67 till about 87. And he went to WWF and wrestled there, and that's where he retired. And apparently in the late 80s, he found out he had invested a lot of money into a bunch of properties and had some business partners. And apparently Ronald Reagan had changed some of the tax laws. And so now Robert Wyndham, who was Blackjack, was stuck with a huge tax bill and ended up really losing a lot of what he had saved. That's what I had read. And so there was a rock band at the time who his son Kendall was friends with, and the singer of this band somehow came into contact and had $1 million in fake money, counterfeit money, buried in his yard. And he went to Kendall, asking Kendall to help him find somebody to buy the money off of him, basically. And Kendall told his father, Robert DeRoy Wyndham here, and apparently he reached out to someone he knew trying to help facilitate a sale, and that person set him up with the FBI. And next thing you know, they did a kind of a sting bust. I guess Bob was trying to, when he was a football player, he went by Bob Wyndham. So, but he was apparently trying to sell the $1 million in counterfeit cash in 2 suitcases and trying to get $250,000 in cash for it. And they arrested him, and I guess they did serve time and were punished for it, but they got a bit of a lighter sentence because none of the money ever was actually sold and distributed or made it into the public. I think that was what I read. But at the end of his life, he was in a real bad way. I remember hearing Ric Flair say he had basically everything going wrong with his body. His body was just shutting down, and he weighed about 500 pounds at the end of his life. And then recently, you know, within like just a couple of months ago, I want to say, Barry had a massive health scare and ended up in the ICU for several days, and they didn't know if he was going to make it. And it looks like he's on the mend, so really sad to see. But man, what a wrestling career. Bobby Heenan was his manager when he was with Blackjack Lanza, and they were just known as two of the absolute toughest guys in the business. Thank you for your service, Corporal Wyndham. I remember seeing an interview with Blackjack where he was talking about how he really was worried about the future of wrestling, because he said he didn't think that there was wrestling the way that they knew it. And he said we're seeing all these high flyers come in, guys that don't know how to really wrestle. They just know how to do these crazy stunts. And he even prophesized it then that we're gonna start seeing a lot of people get hurt here. And he had at one point, after he retired from wrestling, become a booker or an assistant booker in WCW. And there was this great story that Ric Flair and several other people have told where he went to Lex Luger at the time and told Lex Luger that he was going to do a match with Dutch Mantell. And Lex Luger used to always speak in third person in those days. And he said, well, Blackjack, I don't understand why a Lex Luger would face a Dutch Mantell. And Ric Flair starts laughing while he tells these stories every time, because he said if you knew Blackjack, you knew he had the shortest temper, and anybody else he would have just backhanded or just punched in the face, knocked him completely out, destroyed him. But he said, you know, being in a corporate environment, he was really trying. He was wearing a suit. He was really trying to be a good guy. And he said he just walked completely right past Lex Luger, walked out of the building and quit. And he told Rick, he said, I can't do it. I can't. Somebody that talks in third person and is questioning my experience, I'm done. There's no hope for these guys. A true legend in the business. Absolute true legend. Well, my friends, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this vlog and hope you enjoyed coming out and visiting Blackjack Mulligan, the great Blackjack Mulligan, the patriarch of third generation wrestlers. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you for all your wrestling. Thank you for all the crazy stories that are left behind. And we'll see you all next time. Have a great night and goodbye.